I was at Yale University this past Tuesday. I was invited there by a conservative group. Also, the black students of the NAACP helped sponsor this event. And the subject matter was about ending affirmative action based on race, based on color. I am against affirmative action based on color, so they had me there to talk about that at Yale. And it was a good turnout. Everybody and their mama showed up, standing room only. It was an interesting debate. And I'm gonna ask you to read, before we end, I want to get to Matthew 14. I think that's 14. Yeah, in a minute here. But what I learned from, or realized from being there at that school, and Yale is, I guess, one of the top schools in the country, right? Yes. Like everybody and their mama want to go there, right? Yes. Right, I believe, really nice thing. But what I realized is that those kids are real dumb. And I see that at all these colleges really that I go to. It's like they may or may not have book knowledge. They may have that. But when it comes to common sense, and when it comes to what is right, it is far away from them. They don't have that common sense to live an honest and upright life. And I also realize that they hate truth. They absolutely hate truth. If you want to hate truth, go to college. And it's like the more educated you are, the truth become your enemy. Simple things like affirmative action based on race discriminates against your fellow man. Now they think that that's okay under this thing called diversity. You ever heard of that?
Yes. Yes.
For some reason, college campuses think that they could solve the problems of folks by creating a word that is called diversity, meaning that, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it means that if you got 10 whites, you got to have 10 blacks, you got to have 10 women, you got to have 10 gays, you got to have 10 rapists, 10 murders, you got to have 10 fats and 10 skinnies. You got to have everybody equal. And somehow or another, they think that that's going to solve the problems of society. Is it like dumb, or is it just me thinking it's dumb?
No, it is really dumb.
Because when you do that, and some of the speakers, this meeting was set up in a parliamentary style debate. Everybody know what that is?
No.
A parliamentary, am I saying that word right, Patrick?
Parliamentary, yes.
Yeah, style debate is, on one side of the room you had the far left liberals, you had the moderate liberals, you had the progressive. In the middle you have the moderates, or independents and moderates. And then on this side you had far right, conservative, and I guess not so far right. Wow. And so I got up and I did my talk about why affirmative action based on race is wrong. They give you like 35 minutes, gave me 35 minutes or so. And then after that, I'll allow questions for a few minutes. And then I'm done for a while and debate start. They start the debate. And so each party have a representative come up and say why they're for it or why they're against it. And if they like what you say, they tap on the desk like this. Or if they hate it, they hiss. And they hissed all the way through mine. Except for the conservatives. They were like, yeah, they agreed. But the blacks were hissing all the way through, and the progressive. And so they started the debate about why they're for it and against it. They allowed questions and stuff like that. It was very, very interesting. The thing I liked about that, it prevents people from yelling and screaming and calling your names and running out, that kind of. Right. It's an orderly kind of a thing. So you get more done, so I like that. But several things that was very interesting is that they think that diversity will solve the problems, not realizing that you have to discriminate against somebody else in order to do that. I made the point that whenever I see black kids on college campuses, right away, I think that they're there because of affirmative action. I don't think that they earn their way.
Why?
Because they got there by skin color and not effort. And to me,
That's not true.
Black Americans should be embarrassed by it. And you're probably right. Some of those kids probably got there.
No, the kids.
I know, let
have-
me make the point.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, man. Some of the kids probably got there by earning their way. Like Clarence Thomas says, I earned my way, but because of affirmative action, everybody's gonna think I got here because of affirmative action. And you can ask any black person, especially liberal, and they will say, yes, he got there because of affirmative action. Even though the man earned his way, but in their mind, he got there by way of affirmative action. So it's a stigma even to men and women, black men and women who work hard to get in there. But the point that I wanted to make about that is that, and another guy, one of the conservative guys got up and made the point that there are poor whites out there who cannot get in because you have to have a number of blacks, a number of Hispanics, a number of this, and these kids are working hard, but because they are white, they cannot get in. And so you're discriminating against another group in order to get this group in. And as a black person, I know what discrimination is, and it doesn't feel good to discriminate based on color. So why would anybody want to do it to someone else if you know it doesn't feel, it's not right? But to these people, it seemed to make sense to them. And I'm thinking, how did this happen to their mindset?
Yeah.
You know, how can you be that dumb to actually believe that this is going to solve a problem in society? You're just going to create more anger now in the next group of people. But they think it's going to solve the problem. How can you go to Yale? I thought you're supposed to be smart when you go there. But they're not that smart. And it is mind-blowing to me. But some people made that point very well. White Americans are being discriminated against because they want to let blacks in based on color. And it's wrong. It's wrong to blacks that they're treated that way because it makes them look dumb. I don't want, God forbid, if something should happen to me, the only way I want an affirmative action doctor working on me, there's nobody else around and I'm about to die. And they're going to take a couple hours to get to the hospital. Other than that, I want the man or woman who has earned their way because they are the best at what they do. And I'm telling you that. And I'm looking at these black students sitting there while these liberals get up and say, oh no, slavery this and slavery that, and black people deserve this and deserve that. And these blacks sitting there smiling like this is a good compliment that they're giving them. And I said to them, this is not a compliment they're giving you. They're saying you're dumb, you're black, here's affirmative action. But for us, we're gonna work hard and we're gonna make it. We're gonna require our children to work hard. But you little black people, here's a program. And none of these kids have ever been enslaved. I didn't see one slave there. Nor did I see one slave master. But they act as though they were picking cotton with me. Isn't that weird? Yes, Wayne.
No, I was just saying that I don't believe that because
You don't believe what?
about the affirmative action is why these kids get in school. Because when Kenya was even going to USC, she had to have a certain grade point average to get in that school.
Yeah.
Now, she may have had an instance where maybe they want to have some diversity in the college, and they want to try to bring in minorities so they can have some type of balance in their school student body. But
They should do it on economics or something.
well, I mean,
instead of the color thing.
if the kids all have the grade point average, then they're just trying to select out of that pool of kids who they want to go to their school. It has nothing to do with if they got this kid over here has a 3.0 grade point average and these other kids have a 4.0 and they let the 3.0 in. That only happens in sports.
You make a good point about Kenya. You're right. I happen to know her. She's a hardworking girl from day one. Mm-hmm. And she earned her way. But because of that stigma of this thing based on color, she will automatically be put into that same category. And anyone who says that they don't think of that is not being honest. That is what you think when you see these black people in these positions.
What you're saying is true because my nephew went to Yale and he was saying that even all through high school, went to like private high schools and whatever. He was saying that the white kids would always tease him, say the only reason he was there was because of affirmative action.
That's right.
but he ended up being president of his class and president of Yale and all the rest of it. But that was
Another
the
thing
truth.
I
He
just-
got there because of his intellect.
And so that's why I don't understand, and I'll get to why they're doing this stuff in a minute, but I don't understand why blacks are not angry about that. I want to earn my way, and I want you to know I earn my way, not just simply because of my color. Another thing that was brought up is that even with the SAT scores, they have to lower the grades now for SAT point or scores for black people now, because they're saying that the white test is biased, yeah, right. It's not black enough. And so I'm thinking to myself, on the test, don't they have like reading, writing, and arithmetic, and like your country kind of questions? There's no color involved in that.
Yes.
And if anybody read the book, they're gonna know what's on the test. And so when I said that this test thing should not be lowered for black people, like if you're black, you only have to have 800 or some point on your SAT. But if you're white or Asian, you need, 1,200 or 1,300 points.
That's disgraceful, that part.
Yeah, and I'm like,
We don't just go out there and learn how to take the test. That's disgraceful.
it is, but they don't see, and these guys like, yeah, no. The test is white, it's biased. But you look at the test, I don't see color on the test.
Yeah, even if it was Chinese, we still need to learn it.
That's right, learn Chinese.
Yes.
But,
It's financial.
I'm sorry?
Huh? No, I was just saying maybe it's financial.
It should be based on that if they have to do it at all. But it's not based on that, it's based on color, it's based on discriminating against Asians and other people who are working hard to get in there. Another thing and so this idea of diversity is an evil, lying kind of thing. Because what I noticed too, mixed in that, you also got the homosexuals put into this diversity type of idea. Because they're the minority too, so you have to let them in. So you have to let the thieves in, you have to let the robbers in. Under this heading, you have to let the prostitutes in, the pimps, under diversity, because how are you going to discriminate against them? They're a minority too. Yes, you know.
To my knowledge, I believe they changed those tests.
Yeah, you
as
have.
they were culturally biased, they would have situations or vocabulary that wasn't familiar to other people other than white, because they lived a different way, or they did things differently.
Right, they got married, they made their kids study hard, they
No,
make sure the
that's what
schools
she-
I'm talking about.
they make sure the schools are working, they're involved in the schools.
But not for the blacks.
So you're right, they do live differently.
No.
No, that's not what she's talking
No.
about. That's not what she's talking about.
Well, how do they live differently then?
It's just culturally, they can.
When I go to a white folks' house, look like they're living just like me.
Look, when I have a white friend and I invite him to my house and I served him greens, he's never had it before.
Right.
He said, "Oh, this is bitter."
But if you put green on the test, he's gonna know what it is. Is that
No,
right?
No.
Am I wrong with this?
He won't know because he never had them before. You never had them before.
So if you saw green on the test, you're not gonna know what that is.
Not really? Food.
Really?
Time is going by fast. I want to move because I want to make a point. But let me ask this: before you take the test, don't you have to study and prepare for it? It's not like you walk in the room and just take a test. Is that right?
Yes, you do.
Don't you have to be tutored and you study for it? So whatever's on this test, everybody's being prepared for that.
Correct.
So if green is on the test, the white man never had any greens, he's gonna recognize it because he studied green before he got to the test. Is that right or not?
Yes. I think you're right.
You can study.
And speaking of tests, they need to teach the foreigners that when you're on the freeway in the fast lane, you don't go slow. And if you're going to go slow, get over. They'll just drive like this. And you be flashing your lights, blowing your horn, and they'll stay like this. And then you go past them and you look at them and roll your eyes. They are like, you're crazy. And you ever? And I'm like, I think of Forrest a lot. I'm like, they better hope Forrest doesn't come down this freeway.
yeah, it happens
That's
a
a
lot.
stereotype.
Which one? Being in
It's
the
a stereotype
being in the slow lane?
that Asians don't drive.
She ain't say.
I didn't say Asian. I said foreigner. That's your mindset.
No, Forrest doesn't drive drive slow.
But they are driving at the
That's
speed
what it
limit,
is.
55 miles an hour is the speed limit.
But you can't go that in the file.
Well, that's the speed limit though.
That's
65.
But anyway, I don't want,
Some places.
they're like this,
I understand what
But
you're
there is a
saying.
law that says slow traffic to the right.
to the right, and the DMV, they tell you the same thing. If you, as a matter of fact, it tell you on the test, this fast lane, what happens if you're in this fast lane and somebody come up on you? You're supposed to say, I get over to the slow lane.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't pass the test.
One thing I'm
But-
seeing is just, you know, a lot of things changed for blacks since the 60s, and that's not that long ago. You know, of course, we could have made more progress, but that is not that long ago that things definitely begun to change for us. So we didn't have the history of being able to do a lot of those other things too. I'm seeing a lot of discrimination. We couldn't do a lot of things, you know?
Like what?
I mean, you know, a lot of redlining was going on at the time, and we couldn't get into the colleges. We couldn't do the things. We didn't have access to a lot of the things that we do now.
Certain jobs.
So all they
I'm not
need,
using that as an excuse.
Right, I
but
understand
I'm
that.
just seeing that, starting to notice it as I see more history, more TV programs that show things that were happening, you know?
so all they need to do is change the law so we can move about, but don't give us anything else after that.
Right, exactly. Give us
Right,
access.
so that we have the right to go there,
Exactly.
you know, if we wanted to.
So people
And then just leave
sometimes
us
think-
alone.
Right, but sometimes people think we had so much or we could do so much, what are we complaining about? I mean, we just got the chance, so, you know, we didn't have the history of being able to go into this field or that field, you
I
know?
know, but what was good about that, and this is what's missing in the dialogue, is that when we didn't have
We tried.
all this other stuff, we did it
That's
ourselves.
how people are.
It afforded us the opportunity to bring out the best in ourselves. That's why there were black colleges all around, black businesses, black professors, because we had to do it.
Like parents told their
Eh,
kids, you have to be twice as good. Now they don't tell them anything. So,
Right.
it's, you know, it did get worse.
Yeah, it got
Some
worse when
areas,
the
right,
opportunities
just-
opened up. It didn't get better.
That's human nature too. That's just not a black thing or a white thing, you know?
Yeah, it can happen to anyone when you just give to them like that. But it also creates problems, and that's what I want
Yeah,
to deal with.
right.
It creates problems. Susan, did you have your hand for that?
I forget, wanted to say a bunch of stuff, but I do feel really bad when I see, especially, I was saying lately, when I see young black guys with their pants drooping down, just kind of hanging around the neighborhood and stuff, I feel bad for them. They don't have any men, or I don't know why, they don't seem to have anybody giving them any direction, or, you know what I mean? They're raised by their mamas, and I kind of wish I could see more black men, you know, just in the communities, you know. I don't know. But I was going to say, when I was young, my parents weren't rich at all, and I worked my way through college, and I had to do it slowly. Like I didn't have the grades to go to UCLA at first. I had to go to community college, and then I had to go to state college a year, and then I went to UCLA. And but I earned my money. I worked as slow, and my dad helped a little bit.
That's interesting that you made that point, because what I hear all the time is a lot of black people can't imagine that white folks have it hard like that. They think in their mind that all white folks are loaded.
No.
Let me finish.
Thank you.
And
They
you
think
know,
two things that they think.
and
That white
we
people are
never thought
loaded,
of-
and that they help one another get into schools. I hear that a
We
lot.
never-
It
and
might.
we never thought of getting financial aid. It
Yeah.
didn't even dawn on us to get financial aid,
Yeah.
you know?
But at that time, the person the black person who did have the grades, they probably couldn't even get in that school either. You know.
We
But
had
let me
community
just say this
college.
about
I went
getting-
to,
Yeah,
black,
they-
you know,
Let me do this,
schools
guys.
out of-
I figure this is I got all these little notes I'm not gonna get to. And I wanna kind of make a point about this today, and I knew it was gonna generate a real discussion about it. This idea, I wish that everybody would stop saying, is that, well, they won't let us in if they don't have affirmative action. Then blacks probably wouldn't get into that school, as Rhonda just said.
No.
Why do you want to be in a school that they don't want you
I
at?
didn't say that.
That's not she said.
What did you just say? They probably wouldn't let us in, or something like that?
No, I was talking to her about in the old days when we couldn't get into schools, even if we
Right.
didn't have the grades. That has nothing to do with the.
I know, but
I don't believe that. I don't believe.
I hear a lot of kids, and a lot of them said that. Well, if they didn't have affirmative action, they wouldn't let us in these schools, right?
But that was a long
As
time ago.
though,
That's not now.
as though that school is better than the school that they can create for themselves.
That's true.
You know, why do you want to go to a school where they don't want you there? Why would you want to go to somebody's house that don't want you at their home? It doesn't make sense to me. Even that sounds dumb to me. And they said it, not that you're sounding, but the kids were saying, well, if they didn't have affirmative action, we couldn't get into Yale. So what? There are other ways of living a life here. I don't want to be anywhere with anybody that don't want me there. But they don't seem to understand it. They seem to take pride in saying, well, let's force the white man to let us in. And just to answer the thing about UCLA and how when they cut out affirmative action there, the rate of black children getting in went down. And the reason the rate went down, the number of kids went down because they're dumb kids. They were not getting in there because they earned their way before. They were getting in there because of affirmative action. And so for them to cut it out was a good thing, so you can see that these kids are dumb. And these kids are going to be running out of the country, dumb kids running the country. And so we should be glad that that happened. And the solution to it is that first you got to restore the family. You know, how about putting the fathers and mothers back together so that they can teach their children to work hard from day one and to judge people based on character and not color? How about let's start with that point, at that point, and then as parents, how about visiting the schools once in a while to see what's going on? You know, talking to the teachers, discipline your children and make sure that they're respecting the teachers. How about that? And then taking out all these social programs that are there as a result of parents not paying attention. How about if they can't get into UCLA because they're not smart enough yet, there are junior colleges all around you can go to and really get a good education that prepares you for the higher academic, higher learning. We used to do that. I had a friend who came here from Alabama. He wanted to be a doctor. He had to start out at step one. He didn't have affirmative action. He wasn't trying to go to UCLA. He wasn't ready for UCLA yet because he hadn't gotten that good education in high school. So he went to Los Angeles City College and got a good education which prepared him and pushed him forward.
That's what I.
How did we lose that idea? I don't hear anybody recommending that these kids start from the bottom and work their way up. They're going to give them affirmative action, put them at the top, and they can't handle it. But I don't hear anyone saying, let's do it this way like we used to do it. It worked. They don't have to go from high school to UCLA. There's some good junior colleges that's going to teach you a high school education and prepare you for that. But nobody want to wait. They want it now. They want it any way they get it, even if it means discriminating against someone else to get it. I want to move a little faster, and then I'll take some more questions. Another thing that happened, created anger. So this create anger, right? It divides the races. It divides men and women even more. So it's not bringing us together.
Right.
And God wants us to come together as one. We should be one. And these people, these smart, intelligent people are creating problems in society.
Right.
They're not solving the problem, they're keeping it going by discriminating against others.
It's worse.
There was in Belleville, Illinois, a couple weeks ago, a young white male was beat up on a school bus by some black boys. And I think this guy was 17 years old. Anybody see that story?
Yes.
And originally they said it was a hate crime. And then they changed their mind and said, no, it wasn't a hate crime. But when you see the video, if you haven't seen it, it's a hate crime.
No, it's not. No,
It's a hate crime.
Nothing to do with,
They-
nothing
they-
to do with color.
Let me finish.
Go ahead.
I know, I'm gonna let everybody,
I saw it too.
those young black boys beat that white boy because he was white. I remember when they first, at Gary, Indiana, I was going to Edison High School. I had left Alabama for a year, and I went to Edison High School, and they got the first black mayor was voted in, and this was like 1967, somewhere in there, 66. And the very next day that this black mayor was voted in, all hell broke loose at Edison High School. The black kids jumped on the white kids immediately and just started beating them simply because they were white. And it was like a badge of honor. It was okay to do it. And then you looked around, every white person had left and gone, and Gary, Indiana became a hellhole. And it's still a hellhole, or even worse. That was a hate crime. The point about that I'm making about this, they have created laws called hate crime laws. But for some reason, they don't apply to white folks. White people could get beat up, it's not a hate crime. But if white folks beat up somebody, it's a hate crime. It's either a hate crime or it's not a hate crime. The point is, you're still creating anger between the races. Because these folks see that this is injustice. They see that this is wrong. They're not going to get along with us or any other race if you could beat up on them. And black people know what it's like to be beat up on, well, some of y'all know, during quote unquote slavery. Why would you want that kind of law to exist where it only applies to people of color but not to normal folks?
Not between black and white only. I mean, they just had an instance where some Latino people had killed 3 black guys.
I know, but the point is, every time a white person is beat up, it's not a hate crime. They automatically, have you guys, or just me seeing this stuff?
No, it's true.
It's not a hate crime. It's only when it happens to you. Isn't that right, Rodney? And that's wrong. That is evil. That is wrong.
All crimes are hate crimes.
Yeah. I've not got beat up one time and the person said, I beat you because I love you. That was a love whooping. I remember when I used to date a lot, I used to beat my woman out of love. Have any of you ladies ever got beat up out of love? Your husband loved you and he whooped you? Wayne ever whooped you, Rodney? No. Wayne like, no. I'm just kidding. I did not beat my woman. Let me clear that up. I thought about it, but I didn't do it. But my point is, God said that our battle is a spiritual battle between good and evil, right versus wrong. And men and women of God, you've got to keep that in mind. You cannot let that leave your consciousness and get involved in this physical thing that look like a battle. It's not physical. Even though it seemed to be physical, it is not physical. You have those who are on the side of evil. Evil is working through them to destroy, to divide, and to conquer. And so when you hear these kind of debates and they sound logical to you, you have to be conscious enough to see that it's not logical. It's not logical. And don't get involved in the color thing so that you forget that it is spiritual. It's a spiritual battle. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spirits and principalities and wickedness in high places. And so, but what I notice is that it's easy for men and women of God to get caught up in this debate when they get so excited, along with the world way of seeing things, that they don't bring any light into this thing. They don't say, no, this is wrong. They identify with the color thing too, whatever color you may be. You cannot be a man or a woman of God and identify with the world. That's the whole purpose of being born again, so you can bring some light into the darkness. But if you're of the light and you're sounding like the darkness, who's going to save who? Who's going to change the situation? You see how everybody got all excited today when I brought this up. Yes. And I knew that would happen.
Yes.
Because you're not conscious enough. I see why Paul had to rebuke the church.